Hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. This week I am going to be painting, it's actually a commission. So if you can see the painting behind me there, it's a beautiful seascape. It's the Dingle Peninsula and I was commissioned this, so I thought why not make a tutorial at the same time. It's beautiful, a really beautiful scene up around the Ring of Kerry. Now I'm not going to be doing it in my studio today because there's a lot of noise going on. Um, People decorating, people out doing their gardening. There's people with machines, a few houses down, cutting timber and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very noisy today. I'm going to go to the kitchen. I'm going to bring my easel, my canvas, my backing board here, all into the kitchen, set it up on my countertop, and record from there because it's a bit more peaceful and it's less noisy. So we're doing it from my kitchen today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just record the video and I'll do a voiceover then later, okay? I'll talk through it then afterwards because um, the sound is not great inside the kitchen either. So I'm just going to record a video, I'll do a voiceover. I hope it comes out okay. It'll be fine, I'd say. So we're going to be painting that anyway behind me there today, okay? You might get some nice hints and tips from this. And you can see Bob Ross behind me, looking over my shoulder. Isn't that right, Rob? Yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's tutorial. Let me know what you think and do subscribe. You're missing lots of fun. Easy painting techniques. So go on, get your stuff, get ready. Let's have a bit of fun with this. Okay, here we go. I am working on a 20 by 16 canvas, primed once, and there's a reference photograph. Isn't that wonderful? Really nice, rich greens, and a lovely, soft, kind of distant hills, and a distant kind of a sky. This is going to be wonderful. Well, I hope it's going to be wonderful. Now, I'm just doing a quick sketch, really. It's just the outlines of the different elements in the painting. So, the horizon line, the outline of the hills. I'll do the outline of the roadway, that kind of thing, you know. Just very, very kind of loosely. It's just as a guide, really. It's always good to have something there as a guide. And what I would say to people as well is, do try to use a reference photo if possible, because it's very difficult, believe it or not, to work just from your imagination. Now, it's good in some cases, but it's nice to have something to kind of look at and just to glance back at to get the shadows and the general composition of something. It's nice just to have something there, just to give you an idea, help you along, because it's difficult enough trying to come up with something just out of your imagination and get the perspective right and the distance right and the colours right. So yeah. Now, I'm almost done here now with this sketch, and I'm working in my kitchen today. It's not the best light, I'll be honest. It's a little bit on the dark side, but I will try and lighten the picture slightly with my editing software here. So I hope it does turn out okay. It's a strange kind of a day in the kitchen today because there's not very much natural light coming through the windows. I'm over by the window, as you can see the light just on the right hand side, but it's a very kind of subdued day. It's kind of rainy, it's dull, it's overcast, so yes, it's not ideal, to be honest, but look, we'll muddle through, we'll get through it. Isn't that right? Now, colours. I better tell you my colours. I suppose that would be handy, wouldn't it? I have titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, a little cadmium yellow deep for those greens, some phaylo blue, some crimson, burnt umber and black. Now for the sky there, as you can see, I just took a little tiny dollop of phaylo blue with white, and I'm going right across the canvas with that. And I'm adding more white in as it comes down lower and lower on the horizon to give us some distance. Now I did take a hint of turpentine with this as well, just a tiny amount. It's just to dampen the brush, really, that's all, more so than anything else. And as it comes down, then I'm going to start taking tiny amounts of crimson, just to kind of help make it a little bit more on the pink side. So a pinky, kind of a bluey, pinky, mauve sort of a colour as it comes down. I don't know if you can see that on the reference photograph, but there's kind of a hint of a pink in the sky. Now, I've taken some Naples yellow right at the very end, okay? Because there's that lovely bright kind of glow down at the very end of the horizon. So Naples yellow with white, nice and simple. I won't go up into the blue with that colour because you may end up with a kind of a greeny hue. So you can see there I just put a little bit of white between the both of those colours, and I'm kind of softening them all together then. So I'm just kind of keeping it nice and simple now, just nice and simple, nothing too complicated. You can see me now just taking a hint of crimson there, a tiny hint, just to warm it slightly, and that little pinkish kind of a glow then comes in from the left, you see, and it's just to add a bit of distance to the sky. So just remember, nice cool colours will give it distance, and nice rich colours will give it, will bring out those foreground colours. Nice rich colours will help push everything else off into the distance. Now another touch of phthalo blue just along the top of my canvas there. I just felt it needed to be a little bit darker, and you can see we have a wonderful kind of a very distant hill off in the distance there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. It's like a little bit of land, miles and miles away, and it's very distant. So I'm just taking a nice small flat brush. I'll take a hint of crimson and mix it into that blue with more white, and it's a very soft mauve colour again, a bit more bluey I suppose, but I'm just going to put a very loose impression of that distant land way off there now. Okay, now lots of white in this, so just bring it down, and you know, don't try to get it exactly the same. It's just a reference, that's all that matters is that you can see there is land in that distance. That's all we want. Now I do hope they like this painting when it's finished. It was a commission, and I am going to put some people walking on that roadway later on. But yeah, it's a commission for someone who's getting it as a gift for somebody else who loves that area, Dingle, the Ring of Kerry, all that kind of area. It's a gorgeous place in the world, and if you're coming to Ireland, I would seriously suggest getting down to Kerry and go up around the Ring of Kerry, and it's absolutely stunning. The scenery is beautiful, so it's definitely worth a visit. Bear in mind you do need the weather. If you have nice weather, it's all the better. But yes, beautiful part of the world. I go there all the time. Now I'm putting in this kind of closer hill that you can see there. You see that off up on the very top of the reference photograph, that very distant hill. I've just kind of mixed a bit of blue, and I've taken a hint of brown, because the burnt umber and the phthalo blue will make a natural greeny hue. So it's a kind of a distant greeny bluey sort of a land colour, and it's perfect for this kind of thing actually. So you don't necessarily have to use any kind of yellows to make a distant greeny kind of a colour. You can just use burnt umber and blue. That makes a wonderful colour, an earthy kind of a bluey green colour. So I'm just kind of moving the brush now in downward strokes, you see. So I'm following the lay of the land. So the way the land is lying, try to follow that direction with your brush, and it will make it much more convincing. And it will give you a lot of the shapes of the rock, etc., with very little effort. I see a lot of amateurs, you know, what they try to do is they try to paint every single little detail, even if it's something that's very far away. They try to put in every single little rock and every single little crevice. You really don't have to. Just keep it simple like this. A simple downward brushstroke will tell the viewer that it's some kind of a rock or cliff face or something like that. So you can be just very loose with it, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, up onto the top of the land. I'm taking a tiny bit of cadmium yellow into that mix, and that's giving me a very pale, soft kind of a green. Now a little Naples yellow as well would make a big difference. So I want the top of this to be a very light green, a pale kind of a soft green. So Naples yellow is perfect for this. It's a nice chalky kind of a colour. Now a little Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, and a hint of burnt umber as well. Look, just to kind of make it slightly richer along the bottom. And I will lighten the top half of this very slightly again very soon, just to give it a bit of light up on the very top of the hill. But yes, as it comes down, it's kind of darkening very, very slightly as it comes down, as it's kind of coming more kind of towards us. Now what I'm doing there is just giving it a hint of detail, just kind of some outlines of perhaps some kind of fields, that kind of thing, up in that hill. So just trying to add a little bit of detail, that's all. Nothing too complicated. Just to kind of suggest to the viewer that there's lots of different kind of things going on up there. So yes, and you can see the way I'm kind of bringing some of that greeny grey colour down into the cliff face as well. That will help tie it all together, and it will really help with the composition as well. So you can see now I've just moved on to a little pointy brush, any small pointy brush, and I'm just kind of suggesting a couple of little lines here and there. It could be anything, it could be little bits of rock crevices. I know I was saying, you know, not too much detail, but it's just very loose suggestions, that's all. See, little downward wiggles of the brush, it does kind of tell you that there's a lot of stuff going on, that type of thing. You see, it only just takes a minute. It's not something that you need to spend a lot of time doing. And if you're joining me for the first time, which a lot of you probably are, welcome to the channel. It's easy oil painting. Well, it's called Stephen Conway oil painting now, but it was called easy oil painting until it got hacked. But yeah, it's kind of easy oil techniques for the beginners, the amateurs alike. You know, there are some easy paintings and there are some more difficult paintings there as well. But I'm sure you will find something to keep you occupied and pass away 1 or 2 hours of your time relaxing and just watching the video. Now, I'm going to move on down here to the next hill, and this is going to get slightly richer in colour, you see. So I've added cadmium yellow with a hint of black. Now cadmium yellow with black will make a wonderful rich green. So I want this to be slightly richer because it's coming more forward in the painting. It's not very, very far away. So just very roughly kind of go along and do the outline of that hill. It doesn't have to be perfect, by no means. And I always tend to kind of add a hint of Naples yellow into a mix as well, because it just gives you that lovely thick pasty kind of colour, and it covers really, really well. And Naples yellow will always give you a kind of a natural feeling to your colour as well. So yes, coming on down with that green, here and there I will add a little touch of phaylo blue as well, you know, just to kind of, so it's not the same kind of green the whole way through your painting, the entire painting. So, you know, kind of alternating between hints of phaylo blue and hints of burnt umber in your greens. It just makes a very natural kind of a landscape. And by the way, I do have a little thinners in this, so I do dampen my brush from time to time. But because I'm working in small areas at a time, you can really put on plenty of paint. So don't be shy with your paint. And I'm on Facebook as well. If you would like to follow me on Facebook, it's Stephen Conway Art. Please do, you know, send me, you know, friend requests to me. You can have a chat. You can show me your artwork, and it's great, you know. All things art. So now I'm just kind of coming along to the edge of the cliff with the same kind of a green, a nice sort of a rich green. I won't say it's too dark. You know, burnt umber and yellow make a very rich, warm green. Black also with the yellow make a nice, rich, earthy kind of a green. But then you can kind of add little touches of blue to make it slightly cooler if needs be. So just very kind of loosely now, filling all this in, and we'll get to our cliff face then very soon. So you can see now, I like how that distant hill is after coming out lovely, isn't it? Lovely and kind of, it's nice and distant and soft, and it's all just got to do with keeping your colours cool and soft for your distant hills. That's all it is. And as it comes closer, then it's going to get much richer and darker. So you can see now how that distant one has been really sort of pushed off into the distance. So just keeping with a small brush, you don't need very, very big brushes with this. I see a lot of the Bob Ross type of paintings and artists who would just use very big brushes. And I know it's fantastic when you're starting out and you want to try those big brushes and all that kind of technique. But you see, you're just very, very limited with those types of brushes. You can only do so much. Whereas with a smaller brush like this, you have a lot more control, I find, and you can get a lot more kind of detail very, very easily. You know, I just think a lot of people get kind of trapped in the Bob Ross kind of technique, and they find it very difficult then, you see, to move on and I suppose get better in a way, because they get to a point where they know all the techniques and then they don't know where to go after that. So I think for that reason, you know, the Bob Ross kind of method of painting is great when you're beginning and you're learning about colour and you know, drawing and all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic for the complete beginner, but I think as you push on and you kind of learn new things, I find you become sort of restricted with your painting. I think it's down to the fact that you're just using big brushes and people are almost afraid to pick up a small brush. You know what I mean? You know, it's just the kind of, it's the way I kind of see a lot of amateurs painting, and you know, they always look almost identical, all the paintings from all those types of Bob Ross artists. You know, I think people should kind of try and develop their own techniques if they can. Not completely new techniques, but you know, use what you have and try and change it a little bit with a different type of a brush perhaps. So that's what I did. I just kind of picked up different brushes and tried different things, and I kind of found something that worked for me. So that's why I use these small stubby brushes, all synthetics, no bristle. The only bristle brush I use is a fan brush, and that's it. Right, now, enough of me blabbering on. I'm coming down now just defining the edge of the land there just on the right hand side, you see, and I'm dabbing with a very badly worn brush, and I'm just dabbing some green through it, a little bit of yellow on the tip of your brush over the dark. That just gives you a nice rough kind of a feeling, a nice grassy type of a feeling. So just dab, 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 very kind of randomly, alright? And follow the land, you see? You follow the direction of the grass coming down and turning. And it's just an easy way of creating some nice texture in your paintings. That's all it is. Rather than having just sort of a flat colour on your canvas, it's nice to just give the impression of a rough surface and rough ground. And it's very simple. Look, I'm just dabbing the brush backwards and forwards, left and right, and I'm kind of softening it into the colour that's already there, you see? So it's getting slightly darker then as it comes down, you know? Also, I do have another channel. I do have videos on a Patreon channel. It's just a way for you to support me, really. That's all. If you know, if you feel that you're getting something out of these tutorials. It's just a nice way for people to support artists like myself. It's just a small contribution, but there are plenty of tutorials there as well, which are only unique to that channel. Nobody else will see them. So it's just somewhere for you to go to support me, and it does really help. You know, it pays for the materials, the paints, the canvas, the equipment, that kind of thing. It does really, really help in a big way. So yeah, go and check it out if you like. It's entirely up to yourself. But thank you anyway for your support. Even just watching the video and subscribing is a huge help in itself. So thank you so much for that. Now, nice dark paint, some burnt umber and black. And I'm just picking out the outline of the roadway there, look. And I'm just going to paint in the wall first. Just very kind of, I won't say carefully, but I'm trying to get it looking somewhat like the photograph. So just some burnt umber, a little black, plenty of turpentine on your brush as well. So not too thick because you'll be there forever. So just plenty of turpentine, a nice thin, creamy kind of consistency will do absolutely fine. And I'm just getting it in, just the outline, that dark outline, that's all. And putting in little hints of dark colour around that kind of that grassy verge just there. I'm just trying to kind of define that shape just a little, just to bring it out and to show you that it is actually a kind of a rocky, grassy verge just there. So just continuing on, adding little hints of detail here and there. No, you can make it your own. You don't have to copy this exactly, but I suppose if you got some hints and tips even from this, you could by all means just incorporate your own landscape into these kinds of techniques. Even if it encourages you to, I suppose, try smaller brushes, then I've done my job, haven't I? But you should really do try them, just to see how you get on. Lots of different types of small brushes. Really worn brushes are very, very good. I know a lot of people just take a really worn brush and they chuck it in the bin. But no, I don't. I keep onto them because I'll always use them for something. Rough kind of foliage, that type of thing. They're very, very handy for that. Very useful. So I'm just coming down now with this green. The same kind of mix of green, yellow, black, tiny hint of blue. And I'm just bringing that green now all the way down, following my roadway around. And I'm going back up there now just to really find some of that dark. You can see that dark spot just up there. Just to really find that. And I kind of start coming back down then. And maybe, yeah, I'm just adding a bit of light to the top of that. You see, just to separate that hill from the distant hill. Just a little. Because one thing I don't want is all of these kind of different areas merging in together to become one. I want to kind of separate them slightly. So you see me just redefining that kind of ledge. It's almost like a cliff ledge, isn't it? And I know this is not exactly the same as the reference photograph, but that's fine. I really, really don't mind at all. It's just an impression of the scene is what they want, So just an impression of the scene. Doesn't have to be exact. Now a little hint of some little posts, that kind of thing, up in that field. It's just small details. They're only a series of little marks, really, that's all. Small marks with your brush. And this area, I'm kind of spending a lot of time on that area just there, because I think when looking at the painting when it's finished, your eye is naturally drawn up that roadway or that pathway. So your eye will be naturally drawn up there. So I need to get that kind of, I always want to get it right, you know. It's always worth, I suppose, spending an extra little bit of time on certain areas in your landscape, especially where the eye is kind of drawn into an area. Just spend a little bit of time. Now I've taken a bit of black and a bit of white. Simply black and white, and I'm just up and down, look, scraping that brush up and down to create the cliff, the grey of that cliff. And I am taking as well a bit of Naples yellow into that, just to give it that sort of a light rocky kind of a colour. And another great colour for cliffs and rocks would be burnt umber with a hint of black and some white. That will give you a nice warm kind of a grey, which is perfect for rocky landscapes. But just experiment with different colours anyhow. It's good to try different colours, because that's how you learn, and that's how I learn. I try different colours, and if something doesn't work, I change it. So I'm putting a very bright kind of a whitey blue in just there. Now, it's a very bright colour, just on the front of that rock, where the sun is really coming down and catching the front of the rock. So I'm just scraping a bit of that light colour and softening it back into the grey, you see? And I'm going in that direction of the rock, up and down, you see? And that tells you then the direction of the cliff as it's falling down. It's coming on pretty good so far, I think. Would you agree? So far, so good. And I do like to work from a limited palette as well. If you notice, we only have 6 colours, including white. And it's amazing that you can paint a full landscape, a seascape, from just 6 colours. It's fantastic, isn't it? And you see a lot of people, a lot of artists, and they might have, 15 different colours on their palette, and they might take tiny little amounts of each. Now, okay, if you're a really professional, experienced artist, and you know exactly what colours you need, that's fantastic. But I find using a limited palette gives you a much more natural composition. It just ties everything together much nicer, because you're forced into using similar colours throughout your painting, unless of course you make the decision that you want to add lots of different colours. Personally, I just prefer a kind of a limited palette if I can, because it encourages people to mix a lot more, to mix your colours, to come up with different types of colours, and that means you're learning a lot more then, you see, doesn't it? So I've just added a little black to the base of those cliffs, just a little bit of detail, that's really all it is. And now I'm just taking a bit of Naples yellow with white, just going along the top of that wall up there, just to kind of redefine the footpath, and get the shape of the footpath in. There you can see, just coming along, and it's kind of disappeared then off behind the hill, hasn't it? So now, Naples yellow, and I've taken the tiniest hint of crimson as well in that. It's just a warm, sandy kind of a colour, just for the top of the hill, the top of the walkway, and it will get warmer as it comes down. And you can see I'm putting the hill off in the distance as well, a little bit of footpath going way up the hill in the far distance. Just putting a little hint of that in, just a small hint, just to kind of suggest to the viewer that it's going up, way up into the distance. Now, naples yellow, a little bit of crimson. Now that's too much. Take a bit more naples yellow in that. A little bit of white. And that will give me a kind of a chalky, peachy, chalky kind of colour. So now, putting that in, okay? And I'm going to start off bright with this colour and add to it as I need. Because I want this footpath to kind of really stand out, if you know what I mean. It's almost kind of, I suppose, the focal point of the painting is the footpath going up into the hill. So I'm focusing on this. I want to get this right. Now I'm just taking a hint of black there, okay, and perhaps a hint of burnt umber as well. So just as it's coming down, making it slightly darker, and it kind of disappears then where the grass covers it, doesn't it? So I'm softening that colour upwards into that footpath now, and following the footpath around, so I'm curving my brush around as I paint. Do feel free to contact me if you have any questions whatsoever. You can email me, stephenconway12@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Facebook if you wish. Yes, you know, or leave a comment. But I'm always open to new suggestions and trying different types of landscapes. If there's something which is troubling you and you would like to perhaps have your own tutorial on that painting for me to try, just let me know, and I will definitely put you on the list, because I do have a very big list of requests for paintings and tutorials. But I will get through it eventually, not to worry. Now I'm just outlining that wall there. You can see the very dark side of that wall. So just with some burnt umber and black, I'm putting that in there now, nice and dark, okay? Just using a small pointy brush. And I'm not going to go all the way down to the very bottom left of the canvas, because I'm going to put my water, the ocean, in first. And I can bring my ocean colour then all the way down, you see, and I won't be spoiling the grass. So I'm going to leave the grass out until the very end, at the very bottom of the painting, okay? Just where the ocean kind of comes along. So I'm just redefining some of the footpath with some little highlights here and there, and some darks, and some just kind of dotting some colour around, giving it the impression of a little bit of detail. And you can give that impression very, very easily. So now I'm taking a fan brush, and I'm taking some cadmium yellow, and I'm taking some black as well. So that'll give me a very, very rich dark green. And I'm just putting, you can see, just creating some texture, some kind of a grassy effect just up there, just a little bit. And I'll add some light onto this then as well. I'm just adjusting the canvas here now, just to make it more easily reachable, the palette. So I've taken some more yellow now. You can see I'm going to bring that right down and cut across in front of that footpath. Alright. It's just really to fill in this white canvas, and I'm using lots of turpentine in this as well, okay? Plenty of turpentine. Right across there. So bring it right down. And you can see how thin the paint is. It's quite thin, isn't it? Because you can see the brush marks. You see the canvas through the brush marks. There we go. And just fill that in, get that filled in. And while I have that colour, I'm just going to add more texture to some of that hill. I'm going dark, okay? Burnt umber, little black, and some cadmium yellow. Just for the ridge there where the wall meets the grassy area, the hill. So just for there, just to kind of soften the wall in slightly. And so then it's just not a kind of a single solid sort of a line. Understand? So yeah, taking some cadmium yellow, some naples yellow, and a touch of white on the fan brush. Just catch some highlight, just off up in the distance up there. Just a little sunlight catching the grassy, cliffy area there. A little bit of light is nice here and there. The landscape will have a lot of natural light hitting the land as well. And I love these types of paintings. I love painting these types of seascapes because they're just so much fun to paint, and they're really so much that you can learn from them. But it's just so easy and simple as well at the same time. I always love painting a good seascape with lots of greens as well on the cliff. It's just so much fun. Now, onto the water. I've just taken some phthalo blue and white, lots of white, okay? And just fill that in all the way down. Just go around your cliff as carefully as you can. I will add more to the cliff afterwards to clean it up, so don't worry too much, okay? So just fill it in as best as you can. And as it comes down, it's going to get slightly darker as it comes down, so I may add a little bit more of the blue into it. So you can see now I'm just kind of going along with a slightly smaller brush, and I'm taking a lot of white now because there's a very bright glow up there, isn't there? On the reference photograph, it's very white, way off in the distance. So just going around the land with that. And at the same time then I want to kind of keep it nice and sort of distant, so I will soften those two together very slightly as well. So where the sky meets the ocean, perhaps with a soft brush, kind of soften that all together, just to give it that lovely sort of misty feeling. So I'm adding lots and lots of white up there. Now going back to my larger brush, and I'm adding that darker blue just for the bottom of the ocean. And phthalo blue has a natural sort of greeny colour to it, so it's perfect for water like this. Just phthalo blue even on its own, it's just fantastic. I want a nice, decent, warm, rich colour just at the bottom, so that the white foam will really show then, it will show up lovely. Now for the bottom, I've just taken a hint of yellow in that phthalo blue, just to make it slightly more sort of greenish. A dark greenish kind of a blue colour. You see? It really helps. And that's much nicer, isn't it? So I'm just flicking it left and right very fast, and I'm softening it up then into that distant colour. You know, not being too fussy about it, just creating some movement in the water, that's all. Now I'm taking a very small brush, and I'm just going to flick some little bits of white along just here and there. See, just to add a little bit of texture to the water, that's all. And bring out some waves, some splash. It doesn't have to be too complicated, just a little flat brush, and just kind of dance around on the canvas. That's all it is. Again, just coming on down again there now. I'm going to go a little bit darker. So a little bit of black this time, a little bit of blue, and that little bit of a cliff there off in the distance, I just want to get that in. It's a very kind of a soft colour. Now, I started off with a darker colour on purpose because the paint is wet and there's a lot of white up there, so it's going to naturally lighten as it mixes with that white. So I started off with a darker colour, knowing that it was going to lighten very, very slightly. Now it's just a very loose outline of that kind of cliff up there in the distance. It's just kind of a rock off of the cliff in the ocean. It's, I suppose, if you look closely at the reference photograph, it's like a chunk of land way, way, way off in the distance. So I'm just trying to make it look relatively, just kind of, you know, like a little clump of land far away. So just very, very subtle, very pale. And I'll try and kind of soften it down then into the water. Because again, with the distance, I just want it to look very kind of soft and misty off in the distance. I don't want it too sticking out in your face kind of a thing, you know. Not sticking out of the painting too much. So just nice soft colours, and then soften it down. And even take a little tiny bit of white and just a little flick of white here and there just at the base of that rocky piece of land off there. Okay. Now we also do have kind of one closer to us here as well, just at the base of the cliff edge. I'll get that in a moment. I'm just putting a couple of little darks just here and there, just to kind of suggest, you know, shaded parts of the cliff. That's all. You know, again, just keeping it nice and simple, not worrying too much about all the little details. Okay, so it's coming on quite nice now so far. I'm fairly happy with this. It's the type of scene I think that is really, it's really easy to kind of to paint something like this and make an impact, because it's just that type of a scene. I know when you stand back and kind of look at the reference photograph, you might say, well, that looks very, very complicated. There's a lot going on. And there is a lot going on, but what I would say is focus on sections. Just focus on painting individual little sections of the painting rather than trying to see the painting as a whole, if you understand what I mean. So concentrate on each little piece at a time. Now, just those little darker ones closer to us, again with a little flat brush, just putting those in loosely, just pulling the brush down, and notice I'm pulling the brush, the edge of the brush downwards to suggest the direction of the rock falling down into the ocean. Okay, you can do this now with little pointy brush as well if you wanted. Just, you know, a little hint here and there, just a couple of those popping up out of the water. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but just to suggest a couple of rocks popping up out of the ocean. That's all. Now, for the lights, I'm going to just take some Naples yellow and a little white. Just pop that in on some of the left-hand sides of some of those rocks. So it's just to suggest the light hitting some of those sharp edges. That's all. So you can see it was just a couple of flicks of the pointy brush. That's it. It's no big deal. Nothing that you need to worry too much about. And I'm probably going to do the same then with the darks, with some phaylo blue and some black, just to get some really, really sharp dark lines in there. So again, focusing on the right hand side of some of those edges, pulling some dark paint down again into the water. Okay, just pulling straight lines all the way down. You could actually, by the way, you could probably use a nice palette knife for this, a straight edge palette knife. That would be nice, quite nice as well, just to fill that with paint and pull that straight down. That would create a nice rocky effect as well, if you prefer to do it like that, by all means. Or if you have other ideas for painting rocks, just use those. But if anything, I hope I have simplified the process just a little. And just kind of giving you a bit of encouragement, I suppose. I think encouragement goes an awful long way as well with painting and showing people how to approach a painting. I think it just makes a big difference just to show little encouragement. And you know, I get people on my Facebook page all the time. You might post, or I suppose social media in general. I see a lot of people who post paintings on social media, on art sites, blogs, that kind of thing. And they get such bad negative reviews, some of them. I think it's um, I think it's a very bad attitude to have if you're going to go on social media and say something bad about someone's painting. Um, in other words, you know, I've had people on my social media saying, "No, it's terrible. I don't like it. It's just not right. It's not very nice." I'd rather somebody just said to me, "Look, here's how you could improve it," rather than just saying immediately that it's just not very good. Um, and no, you kind of, I suppose you get used to brushing it off. Look, I don't take it seriously. I don't take comments, um, negative comments, very seriously anyway. Even on my YouTube channel, look, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a different sense of what they see, and everyone thinks differently about how they want to describe something. It's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. But you have to grow a bit of a skin as well, I think, sometimes, um, and just take what you can from it and learn what you can. Now, look, with my pointy brush, I've just taken some white there, and I'm popping some white in around those rocks. Just little flicks of white paint here and there. And I'd also add a little bit of light to some of the smaller rocks as well. I'm using that pinky colour there now, that kind of light pinky colour, just to catch some lights on some of the rocks, that's all. I think it's very important as well to think about where the light is coming from in a painting, because everything that we see around us has lights and shadows. That's what kind of makes up everything that we see, really. That's, I think, what makes everything three-dimensional. So you have to have a light and a shade, or a light and a shadow on almost everything that you look at and paint. So just try and keep that in mind if you're painting still lifes, especially, or subjects like buildings. Shadows are very important, probably the most important. And I see a lot of paintings from beginners and amateurs, and they just do not show the shadows enough. And I kind of advise them maybe to strengthen some of those shadows, and immediately then you see the difference in the painting. It just comes to life. Now I'm just adding some more light on to that roadway just there. Just giving it a bit more. And I'm going to soften in that little green edge then, because it's a little bit too harsh, I think, on the eye. So I'm just going to soften that with my fingertip, just ever so gently, just a little. It'll just add to the kind of the depthness of the painting, I think. So kind of, I suppose we've pretty much finished the top half of the painting for now. We can add little details to it as we go, I suppose, later on. But I suppose we could start concentrating on the bottom half of the painting and getting all that grass, that lovely grass in. It's very simply done, actually. It's just all done with a fan brush and one or two small flats, that's all. Now I'm mixing a nice green there. Phaylo blue, cadmium yellow. And just put that straight on, look. And that's a nice rich green, so that will bring the green forward a little bit more and give it more of a punch. So I'm trying the cadmium yellow deep as well now. That'll give us a nice real rich green. And you could kind of add bits of black, bits of brown, bits of burnt umber even into that mix. Give it some nice richness. It's almost like, I suppose, an olive green or a sap green kind of a colour. So those colours mixed. I don't use greens from the tube. I don't think I ever have. Maybe when I was first painting, but I prefer to mix. I always mix greens. I don't have any greens from the tube. I think it's just, you have a nice, much nicer range of colours when you mix them on your palette. So look, nice little bit of light there now on my fan brush. Some cadmium yellow, a little hint of white, a little hint of Naples yellow. Just dabbing it along, very, very lightly, just to catch some light. And I suppose just to add a bit more interest to the painting as well. So I'm just going along with my fan brush now, dabbing away. And I'll use the fan brush then to highlight the edge of that grassy verge there, okay? To go in front of that roadway. So the roadway will disappear down behind this, if you know what I mean. And the fan brush is fantastic. You can do so much with this brush. With this one little brush, you can achieve wonderful effects very, very, very simply. Do try it. So you see, just kind of breaking up the edges rather than just having a straight line. Just use it to break up the edges, and you could even flick it upwards to create little grasses and all that kind of thing. Okay. Just remember to try and keep it nice and loose. And you know, I'm looking at the reference photograph, but I'm not trying to keep it, you know, exactly the same. I'm just using my own kind of, my own idea as well. You know, just adding different amounts of grass here and there. Now I'm going to put in that center. You see the center line there is kind of a Naples yellow with a hint of cadmium yellow. I'm going to put that in, just add that touch of kind of a sandy sort of a colour here and there. And when you're doing this now as well with this brush, you don't need to use any thinners. I would just use paint on its own, just lots of thick paint on the very tip of the brush, and just dab, 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 dab. Okay. And also one little bit of advice that I would give you is, if you're using the fan brush, try not to lean down too hard with the fan brush, because you will create that curve of the brush a little bit too much. What you want to do is kind of just hit the brush square on and kind of just flat on, so it's not too much of a curve when the brush stroke is on the canvas. It's a little bit, but it's not too much. So don't lean down too hard with the brush, just use a very, very tip. Okay. Now I'm going very, very dark here, okay? Black, blue, cadmium yellow deep. A very kind of a blacky green. Of course, you could add a little bit of burnt umber to it as well, if you find it's a bit too cold. Burnt umber will help warm it slightly. I'm just going around now and sort of flicking upwards as well, just here and there. So these will be the darks of all that kind of grassy area. Couple of little darks. Now I won't go crazy with this, I won't put too much of this in, because I will be putting a light bright green on this as well, to highlight some of those. I don't want it going too dark. But it's always fun using the fan brush like this, because it's just so easy to get the effect that you want. It's just so easy, and it doesn't take any effort whatsoever. Now, particularly when painting grass like this, you can use the fan brush just as I am, like this, flicking it upwards. You can use it horizontally to create little buds of flowers and all that kind of thing. So There's lots you could do with this one brush. Just experiment yourself with the brush. You'll be very, very surprised what you will achieve. Now I'm just taking some more cadmium yellow pale. I have two yellows. I take cadmium yellow pale and I have cadmium yellow deep. I would probably use cadmium yellow pale 99% of the time, okay? It's just when you have a lot of greens on a painting, it's nice to have a choice of one or two yellows and even one or two different types of blues as well, just to have that choice. And you know, you can add lots of different things to this. You could add little dabs of red flowers or something like that. That would look quite nice. I'm not too sure what types of flowers grow by a cliff edge like this, but certainly maybe little bluebells or something like that. You could add some of those in. That would look quite nice, wouldn't it? You know, just a little bit of everything. As long as you're enjoying this, that's all that matters, okay? Just take your time and enjoy it. So you can see I'm just adding some lights here and there, and I'm kind of mixing it almost into the dark slightly. So it's kind of slightly faded together, that kind of a look. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the result so far. It's something I've really, really enjoyed painting. Again, some lights. What you could do, and what I might do as well, is let this all dry. When I'm finished, I let this all dry out for a couple of days at least, and then go along with a pointy brush and lots of turpentine and put in little tiny blades of grass, just individual little blades, just here and there. It would make a big difference, but it's very difficult to do that when it's wet and you have lots of paint on the canvas, because it just will not show. It'll kind of mix into that background colour almost immediately. So you know, you can leave it dry. I'll be honest, I'm a man of very little patience, and I don't like leaving paintings dry between layers. I like to start a painting and finish a painting. It's just me. I just don't have any patience. You know, of course, you just paint what you can paint and leave it dry if you like. Now look, with my pointy brush, lots of little dabs of colour, little dabs of yellow, you know, a couple of little dabs of white here and there, just to suggest little flowers, small little flower buds just here and there. And as I said earlier, perhaps even a couple of bluebells or some little red dots of paint, just to kind of catch your eye. But I wouldn't kind of go, I wouldn't go overboard with this. A handful, I think, is just enough to show a bit of interest in the painting. But yeah, just keep it nice and simple. So just little dabs here and there, nothing too fancy. It's just to add a bit of colour. That's all. So what do you think? It's coming on quite nice now, isn't it? I'm sure they will be very, very happy with this. Well, I hope so. So all I need to do is make a frame for this now, and it'll be job done. I actually do have it framed. I'll show you at the end of the video. You can see it framed in my own handmade frame, which I make myself from scratch. For me, there's a lot of work in the framing, probably more so than the painting, because the framing just takes so long, and you have to undercoat it, prep it, sand it, you have to top coat the frames 3 or 4 times. It's a very, very big job just to make a frame. But they do set the paintings off, I think. And And I suppose the good thing about it is I keep my frames the same all the time. So when people come back to buy more paintings, they're getting exactly the same type of frame, same color, so they can match what they already have. I think that's good. I don't like painting frames different colors and that kind of thing, because people start asking you then for different types of frames and different colors. It's just a lot of work. So I keep my frames nice and bright. It's a nice bright cream finish, satin wood, and that's it, and people love them. I do ship my frames as well, by the way, if you're wondering. I do ship them, but it is expensive to ship the frames because they're just so big and kind of bulky. That's the only problem. It's not that they're heavy, they're not very heavy, they're actually very, very light. It's just the size of the frames means that they have to go as a parcel, and it's very, very expensive to ship frames like that. So look, I'm just highlighting some of that wall there, okay? Just because you're going to have little touches of light catching the wall as well. Little dabs with a small brush, just here and there. And what will happen is, that light colour I'm putting on, it will pick up the dark underneath and kind of create different shades and different tones of greys, lights and darks. So that's why I like working wet into wet like this so much, because the colours kind of soften together as you're painting, and it creates this lovely natural feeling to a painting. I think it's wonderful. I wasn't going to paint people in the painting, but I think the painting would look quite empty if there wasn't anything painted in there. So I might put a couple of people just kind of walking up that footpath. And normally I would spend a lot more time just like this now, just looking around, adding little touches here and there. Normally I would kind of spend maybe an extra hour or something, kind of just adding little bits. But for the purpose of the tutorial, I just kind of keep it simple and keep it to the point. Now, some burnt umber for the top half of this person, and when you're painting people, the easiest way to paint people, for me, to paint figures walking off or whatever, is to think of the shape of a carrot, okay? So it's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom, and that's your basic figure of someone walking. You don't have to paint legs, you don't have to paint arms or anything like that, just a simple carrot with a little dot on the top, and that will be the head. It's a simple way of painting the impression of somebody walking a footpath or through a field or something like that. It's just nice and simple, but I think it works. I really do think it works. Now for the next one, I'm thinking, now you see that bit of shadow I'm putting on there, you see that will bring it to life. You see a little small hint of a dark grey, and just drag it across and soften it into the road. That tiny little shadow now, it just makes all the difference, doesn't it? It just brings that person to life. I'm doing one next to that as well. It could be the person's partner. Little hand around the shoulder, just bring it across. You can do this in any colour you like. I'm just picking a nice neutral colour. And black then for the head, little dot for the head, and then we just do the bottom half, and you're basically then just finishing off the carrot, okay? That's all it is. Nice and simple. It's simple, but it works, and that's the kind of painting I like to do. Simple, yet very kind of effective. Now also, you can kind of see the colours really properly on that canvas, because it's getting quite late in the day, and um, there's kind of a light coming through that window there just on the right, and it's kind of showing on the canvas because the paint is wet, so you can't see the colours really through on that canvas. Now I'm putting a little bird up on the sky. You have to have a little bird, I think, in every painting. That's like my hallmark, if it permits it. You know, that's just something I do. And then just finishing up with a couple of minor little things here and there, just adding some little bits and bobs. That's what I like to call them, little bits and bobs. I suppose you could call it doodling as well, but I try not to kind of overdo this, because you could spoil your painting as well. So I do try to kind of just keep it simple. But yeah, I'm quite happy now with this painting, I must say. I'm very happy so far. I think they will be very pleased with this painting. It'll be hanging proudly in someone's home, and they'll look at it and they'll think, yeah, we've been there, and they've probably even walked this road. So I think it'll be nice for them to have something like this. A nice memory of a dingle. And of course, there's so many different angles that you can paint these scenes from. I'm sure if you walked up the road maybe 2 minutes, you'd have another completely different angle. So that's what's so unique about County Kerry, and Dingle in particular. The Ring of Kerry there, all of that coast. There's just so much to see in such a short amount of time. There's just so much to see. It really is wonderful. And you know, I think we're almost there. Almost. Just finishing off a couple of small little bits and pieces. You know, I suppose a painting really, when you think about it, a painting is never truly finished, is it? You know, there's always a little bit that you can add on or change, but you have to get to a point where you say, okay, I think that's enough, and just make a decision then to stop, if you know what I mean. But you can just keep kind of going and adding little things as you go along. Absolutely. You see, I'm just kind of, you know, lightening little bits here and there. Just, I want to make sure it's just right. So anyway, it has been a true pleasure painting for you this week. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. You're missing so much fun and so much learning in particular. I love painting for all you guys out there. You budding artists, I love it. It's just, I feel like you're sitting right next to me in my studio every time I paint, and it's a true pleasure, it really is. And you know, lots of you are my friends, my close friends, so thank you so much. So just a quick signature and we're pretty much done, I would say. We can zoom in here now and take a quick look at this and see close up what it looks like. Now there, isn't that better? Nice little suggestion of some people.